Finance Nakia Hotepa Ukalindiela Iwale Tito Mboweni Minister of Finance Nakia Hotepa Ukalindiela Iwale Cheko ya petrol, 1 liter ya petrol, Yaluwa France 70, 1 liter iwale, Cheko ya petrol, 1 liter ya petrol, Yaluwa France 70.
Thank you very much indeed. Thank you.
Of course, Tito Mboweni's big day tomorrow is budget day, and of course everybody weighing in. You must have seen on Kethi Mhlantana's show the elderly weighing in about the fact that they're basically left with nothing after they are given whatever umdende is these days. They are left with absolutely nothing. So tomorrow we will be having a full-on dialogue with the studio audience to analyze what has become of that budget, to analyze whether it has gone far enough in addressing the issues that are facing our society. So do look forward to that. 8:30 tomorrow here on Newsroom Africa. Full-on dialogue on the finance. Of course, Stephen Grotes and Ayabonga Kawe, straight after that budget, will give you a full-on analysis. So do stay tuned to Newsroom Africa. But we thought tonight, let's look at tips for the minister. Right? If we had any influence, or if you would listen to us. By the way, he said to me he doesn't watch television. So maybe this will fall on deaf ears. And maybe those close to him will tell him, these are the tips for you from your view. The first one really is the issue of taxation. Right? Why is it that so far we have had a situation where corporate tax is only 28% and citizens are taxed 45%? Right? And I think only what's fair now is that corporate must also feel the pinch. They must be able to invest in the revenues of this country. So what I was suggesting here, Minister, is that let's meet halfway. Let's make sure that corporate tax move from 28 to 35, and a personal tax moves from 45 to 35. So we meet halfway, so that you spread the pain. You spread the pain. You don't give the pain only to those who are suffering as individuals in these hard economic times. One of the things that irritated me 2 years ago, I think it was what one can call the lack of ideas, almost the evaporation of ideas when it comes to how to deal with our national debt. And what was the shortcut? Just increase VAT. Make VAT 15%. It was a disaster. And when you say to people who are suffering, oh, no, we're going to zero rate, an egg here, a little bread there, it means nothing. Because on an overall basis, fuel prices go up, costs of doing business go up just purely on the basis of 15% tax. So we are suggesting here, Minister, reduce VAT back to 14%. It was a shortcut solution to increase. I'm not aware that any of the finance ministers since Malusi Gaba have told us what that 1% additional VAT has done for our economy. So keep it at 14%, make sure the poor do not continue to suffer. So that's the first suggestion there. The second thing that has irritated society is what I can call the begging bowl mentality of state-owned enterprises. How long must we keep this burden on the public? How long should we tolerate a simply non-performing asset like South African Airways? We can't even count how many billions SAA has come begging. In any normal situation, you cannot continue to do the same thing and expect different results. So what should happen with SAA? Appoint an equity partner immediately. Don't announce we are now going to look for... No. Because that doesn't work. 3 years ago, Minister Pravin Gordhan, at that time Minister of Finance, announced that a process to look for an equity partner will commence. It's 3 years later and nothing has happened. Why can't you approach the likes of Ethiopian Airlines? Right? I understand, therefore, they increase their frequency to this country. They are the biggest airline, most profitable airline. on this continent, and the continent, rather an airline rooted in our continent, partner with them. SAA can partner with them to make sure that they can get out of the morass that is there. Another irritating matter. The public, I can tell you now, when it comes to the finances of this country, the public is hurtful. Every year we are subjected to reports, unending reports, about how money is wasted. It's called wasteful expenditure, irregular expenditure. And part of why that irregular expenditure has moved from 40 billion to 50 and last year to 60 billion is that those who are perpetuating that conduct indeed are not punished. There is no consequence. They just carry on as if nothing has happened. The municipal managers where municipalities have not had a clean audit in donkey years are still in place. Some of them without proper qualifications. What are you going to do? Let us slash irregular expenditure by 80%. You need to set a very high target, right? And recover anything over the 30%. So any municipality that cannot reduce that 60 billion by 80%, anything over that 80% must be recovered from the relevant officials. You will see how fast those officials, municipal managers, mayors for themselves, because they sign off these financials, director generals of departments, you will see how fast they will comply if only they know that 30% will come from their pockets. Hit them where it hurts. Otherwise, the current apologetic approach to dealing with irregular expenditure does not work at all. You've got to recover stolen money from those who have stolen money and ensure that the people who have been identified as thieves for the last 3 years must be chased down the road to pay back the money. That's the only way you're going to deal with it. Whether these people are MPs or they were previous ministers who ran off or who have proxies in business, who are businessmen by night and politicians by day, recover. Once you recover, you will see how fast these politicians, how fast these officials will comply. So the issue of wasteful expenditure, a big thing there tomorrow in that budget. Now, one of the things that worry communities, and that's why you've got over 1,600 protests in our country in 1 year. It's like a protest capital of the world, because you walk into a municipality in every part of the country. Yesterday, the story was a municipality in Mpumalanga that has a debt of over 700 million rand. You got where residents are owing 18 million rands, billion rands for that matter. I don't want to talk about Madibeng and related municipalities where it's a wasteland. Right? What are we going to do about that? We got to inject 100 billion rand to start with to fix the municipal infrastructure. You can't have an infrastructure so rotten as you see in the Vaal there, where sewage is spilling into the Vaal River. You can't have an infrastructure like in Mututu, where people have to run away from their homes because sewage is spilling all over the place. You can't have a pothole capital like Mabatu, where potholes have not been fixed for years. You've got to inject some serious capital. And say 100 billion there deliberately, because just 2 years ago, right? Number one, there was the so-called stimulus package, which was set at 50 billion rand by the president. On the same day, the Auditor General reported that 50 billion rand was wasted. That's 100. It just cancels out. So in one side, it reminds me of a song, you are stimulating this side, you wasting this side. So instead of having 60 billion rand of wasteful expenditure, if you reduce that by 80%, you can take that money and then direct it to municipalities, so that you don't have a situation where the people of Hammanskraal have to go and buy water or have to rely on donations of water. So hopefully those are the tips that can indeed assist the minister. The last thing we're going to talk about is social grants. When you listen to government officials, they say 17 million people are on social. They think it's a good thing. They are talking about people who are now dependent on social grants. youngsters, some of them who should be in school, who should be going out there to look for jobs, to start their own business, have their own social grants. And what's shocking, then you hear horrible stories of kids, teenagers having kids so that they can go and claim a social grant. It's a mess. So what I want to do about it, remove young people from their social grants. If it's true what the president is telling us, that you're going to create universities, you're going to create job opportunities, you're going to create streams, then you don't need young people to be on social grants. You must put them in employment programs if they are not in school. That's where they should be, not on social grants. If you remove that, then that can reduce that 17 million people who are there. Direct these people to employment schemes. Increase the welfare grants of people who deserve it. We heard just earlier on News at Prime, the old lady who was telling us how useless the current amounts of social grants are for those who are indeed impoverished, those who are indigent. Why don't you increase that properly by 25%? Give us 2 rand increase. What I want to do with 2 rand? Do they even still print 2 rand at the mint? What for? Because nobody can do anything with that sort of the kind of social grant levels, because they are spreading the thing too thin. People are supposed to get off their backsides to work, queue for social grants. I mean, I cannot understand a youngster of 18 or 19 queuing for social grants. They must go and work. And government that claims that I've got 5 priorities or streams of employment must at the same time take those young people off the social grants, and they must work for that money. Nothing for free here, and creating a culture where people just think everything must just be for free. Now, Tito Mboweni, it's over to you now. And tomorrow night we will be analyzing whether any of these things fell on deaf ears or were indeed something that was taken into account in shaping the finances of our country. It's a tough job, but we wish the minister there well. After the break, we talk social cohesion at the bottom of this hour. Stay tuned.